Hello and welcome to another episode of Behind the Dish, a presentation of the Burnt Orange Sports Network. I am your host, Henry Hipschman, along with my co-host, Grabiel Silva, where we like to talk to you about everything and anything Texas Longhorns baseball. How you doing, Grabiel?
I'm doing pretty good, Henry. We're less than 100 days away from first pitch. I'm excited to see how the season's going to be able to go, and as we get closer and closer.
I'm excited too. There's not too much new information though coming out about the team lately. So today on the podcast, I think we're just going to talk about kind of our expectations for the year, what we've seen in the past, and what we're hoping to see from the team coming up. So let's get started with another episode of Behind the Dish. Again, a presentation of the Burnt Orange Sports Network. So we know how baseball's been going on the last couple of years. The program hasn't been doing terrible, but it hasn't been living up to the expectations that comes with a storied program like Texas baseball. And now we've got the new head coach, as we've talked about in the previous episodes. I don't want to talk about that too much because of how much we've talked about already. Something I really do want to know, Grabiel, especially someone who went to so many games last year, who really immersed yourself in the team culture last year. What do you kind of expect to see out of this new team, this new culture?
Well, it's interesting to see that a lot of these players stayed after Coach Pierce was let go. A lot of them are really bought into what they believe Coach Loss can bring them. So that's going to be interesting to see that, there's a lot of returners from last year to this year. A lot of these guys, they didn't decide to just, leave because it was change and, Coach Pierce wasn't going to be there anymore.
I mean, no disrespect to Coach Pierce, but I think if you have the option to kind of explore a new program or stick with this one and then work with one of the best coaches in college baseball, you're going to kind of take that opportunity. I mean, a new coach could make all the difference for a lot of teams, and we've seen that before in really any sport where how a coach just makes such a long lasting impact. So I think a lot of these guys honestly probably find themselves kind of lucky that this is the coach we brought on as a university, and now they're going to have the opportunity to learn under him and really grow under a new system that has been proven to work.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how Coach Loss is going to implement his own culture starting from day one of the season. Because last year, like, this team was kind of all over the place. Coach Pierce was shouting at fans in the stands after certain losses, and he had to huddle up his team after bad losses at home. That's not something that you see a lot of here in Texas. So it was something that is going to be interesting to see how Coach Loss is going to kind of change the culture and change the dynamic of this team to where they're probably still bought in, but how much more bought in can they be, and if they can translate that into some success on this upcoming season.
And I think, every sports fan knows just how frustrating it is to see your favorite players frustrated. You're in a system that's not working. You're on a team that's not working, that's not winning games despite talent, despite having high talent levels, despite having the resources, the recruiting resources, the facility resources, basically everything at your disposal to succeed. I mean, I'm bringing in a totally different sport right now, but you see guys like a CD Lamb who's frustrated with the Cowboys because they're not performing how they want to perform, even though they know they're capable. So I'm just going to bring that back to Texas baseball. A lot of these guys who are with the team, they're in this program that's supposed to succeed, that's supposed to do well, but it's not. And you're getting frustrated and you have to deal with these hard losses. You have to have the coach talk to you after games. You start developing this idea, not of a losing culture necessarily, but like just a stagnant culture where you just don't feel like you're going anywhere and sometimes need an extra boost over the finish line. And for some teams, that's a new player. And in this case, for Texas, it's a new coach.
Yeah, a lot of these recruits are kind of sold on the pageantry of Texas baseball. A lot of the past is probably talked about in some of that recruiting pitch. Like, um, the Texas baseball program sends a player to the major leagues, into the major league draft. Like, literally every single year, there's a Texas baseball player drafted. So there's that type of pedigree, and then there's also the old championship DNA that was instilled within the program. This team has won six national championships. That's a good selling point for recruits who are trying to, like, figure out a place to go. But I mean, some of these recruits also want to play at the highest level. So knowing that they can go to a program that's had 38 men's college World Series appearances, that's something that's a good selling point. It's just now you need to actually perform on that selling point, on those selling points. Get these kids to the next level, get these kids to the College World Series, and these kids are going to want to play for you and want to win the College World Series, not only for themselves, but for the coaching staff, for the fans, and for the whole school as well.
And these are kids that forgo, sometimes going directly to the minors. They're kind of taking a risk. They're risking money. They're risking time to go to these colleges, to work with these coaches, to be developed in a way they felt they couldn't be developed with a minor league team if they had that option available to them. So it's definitely a risk. And we're talking about guys who are taking the MLB draft. I mean, last year for Texas, it was Jared Thomas, who went to Colorado Rockies. He's on their minor league team right now. LeBaron Johnson also went to the Rockies. I think they're playing together on either a double or triple A team. And then Tanner Witt to New York Mets, and he's on their minor league team right now. But like you're saying, like there's this expectation. We were kind of going through some of our stats before this. We're going through the baseball Instagram, and we have videos of the coaches who are like, it goes Major League Baseball, then it goes SEC baseball, and then the minor leagues. And they hold themselves in this high esteem, this high regard that they are better than the minor league program, than the farm system. So they hold themselves to a high standard. They have this expectation. We've seen great players come out of the SEC. Obviously, Paul Skeens is the first one to come to mind, but there's been a good amount. So to forego one experience for this one, you're really taking a risk and again sacrificing potential money. I mean, with NIL, it's different now, but it's definitely an experience that you're trying to invest in.
Yeah, Henry. And then going back to the SEC, I know I don't want to talk about it too much. We've talked about it a lot in previous episodes of how competitive the SEC is. I got it pulled up right now with some odds makers. They have Texas as the 11th team favored to win the College World Series this upcoming season, but in front of them are five SEC teams. Five SEC teams top that list. So that really goes to show how competitive this SEC conference is. That's kind of why they say it's the major leagues and then it's the SEC baseball conference. There's a lot of dudes in the conference. I mean, five teams at the top of the list to have the best odds to win it all. That's not by coincidence. They don't just luck into something like that. They're proven teams. Tennessee, Arkansas, A&M, LSU, and Florida. Those teams have all been good for the past couple of years, and they're going to continue to be good in SEC baseball and college baseball as a whole. So, it's going to be interesting to see how Texas is going to weasel their way into that, upper echelon of SEC baseball teams in Coach Schloss's first year.
And how many teams do you really see they get a new coach, they get a whole new coaching staff, really, and then their odds improve? It doesn't happen that often. I mean, again, I know I'm straying away from the sport, but it is in season, so it kind of relates. Like Alabama, new head coach, no one expected them to win a national championship under a new head coach. They've lost players and everything, and then you have a guy like come back to baseball. You have a guy like Schloss coming in who is accomplished. You expect him to create this winning culture, as we talked about in previous episodes. I don't want to harp too much on what we've already talked about, but like it doesn't happen often where the odds will go up for a team in this instance. But Schloss is bringing in a really great staff, and there's a lot of players on this team, athletic players, high IQ players that have not reached their potential under the older regimes, but they can do so now.
Yeah, that's right, Henry. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how Coach Schloss is going to, take command of this team. I've been hearing a lot of good things about how Coach Schloss is keeping it kind of loose. I mean, I don't know if you've seen, but online, a lot of the guys you're seeing them with beards. That was something that was not, allowed by the previous coach, Coach Pierce. He was more like the Yankees facial hair
The
rule.
Yankee rule, yeah.
Clean shaven, everything above the collar. Everybody had to look the same. Everybody had to look nice. Now you're seeing guys a little bit more relaxed. They're able to express themselves a little bit. They're having beards, mustaches, a little bit longer hair. So Coach Schloss doesn't really care about stuff like that outside stuff. He just cares about how they're doing on the field and how they're going to be performing when it's time uh, to start playing against these tough SEC opponents.
And Grabiel is going to roll his eyes when I say this, but I'm a big Yankee fan, And I've grew up watching that clean cut rule, and I always thought like these other teams are kind of having a little more fun. They're letting loose, and it's just cool to see that environment. I mean, your best players are your happy players. You never have great players who are uptight, who are feeling really strict, who feel like they kind of can't experiment a little bit. You
Yeah.
do have it in some cases, but you really have a lot of guys, at least nowadays, where they're loose, they're feeling good about themselves, they're celebrating after big plays, they're just enjoying the locker room. And that's a big thing too. Like, can he create this locker room environment beyond just winning? Can he create this locker room environment where everyone feels good about themselves, everyone feels good about the team, and they feel good about where they stand going into a season, into a new conference, the hardest conference in college baseball, and playing probably some of the hardest baseball in the country compared to some minor league teams, some minor league matchups.
Yeah, and then going back to the culture with the team last year, we saw a little bit of the fight from the guys who would they would stand up for their guys if something happened to them on the field. It's gonna be interesting to see how much more that's expressed, because Coach Pierce wasn't really like a real outspoken go out there and fight for the team as much. He would. He got ejected a few times, but a lot of people online harped him for not going out there and fighting for his guys as much as he should have probably. So it's gonna be interesting to see. I haven't followed Coach Schloss like that to see if he's actually that animated, but I know that he does enough to bring out the winning genes in his teams, and it's gonna be interesting to see how he's gonna do it. I'm also interested in seeing how Max Wiener is gonna work with this pitching staff. Henry, going back to our kind of season expectations, the pitching staff last year was bad. Like
Yeah.
there's no other way to put it. It wasn't for and a team like Texas with all the resources they have, you know, finding good pitching was still hard for them under Coach Pierce, and it reared its ugly head in a lot of the games that they played throughout the regular season and in the postseason as well. Like once they got, two, three arms deep in the bullpen, you were just hoping and praying that whoever was on the mound was going to have it that day. Once you got past their top two starters, you'd hope the third guy was going to do all right to let the back end of the to let the bullpen close out the game. But it was tough, seeing an inconsistent pitching staff week in and week out. And Max Wiener changed everything there at Texas A&M. They had a legit pitching staff. He really turned it on its head. Like within a few. I don't know how long he was there for sure. It might have been a season, but or within a couple seasons. But he changed that pitching staff like around there at Texas A&M.
That's kind
So
of a question too, a little bit like, are they kind of expecting to go to the College World Series this year? Like, it's the expectation. Obviously, every team has that expectation. But is this gonna be like this is the base and we build from here kind of year, or is this gonna be like this is the team I want? This is the team we can carry on through. Because I think I mean, it's a little too early to tell and everything. I don't think the roster is even settled yet. But like you think it could be that kind of situation where Schloss could take them to the College World Series trip maybe if they really find their stride, get to that World Championship or get to that final round, get to that final series, or is he going to kind of try and build off of this going forward? Like, is his recruiting going to build off of this? Is he going to try and show recruits that they're building a winning culture? Obviously, like the goal will always be to win a championship every year, but could it be like that kind of situation this year?
um okay, so me personally, I think a really successful season would be to make the College World Series. After the last 2 years where they uh, were eliminated in the regional and then in the super regional, getting back to the College World Series would be a success. Building, changing the trajectory of postseason outcomes where they lose in the World Series, they lost in the super regional, lost in the regional. Now it's gonna be like, okay, if they can do that and go straight back to the College World Series, that's a success. Will it happen? It remains to be seen. We haven't seen this team play an actual baseball game yet. Under Coach Sloss.
I mean, the orange and white game, but that's
Yeah, that's
no pitcher gets more than an inning in that game, and problem with that, no one can really get hot, no one can really find their stride. We were commentating for that game for the Burnt Orange Sports Network. Quick shout out to them, but and I think there were 3 or 4 strikeouts the whole game, which, for a single inning, it's hard. But, how this pitching staff is going to work out, how this bullpen is going to roll out, who's going to be the starters, who's going to be the aces besides, Ace Whitehead, it's going to be kind of up in the air for a minute.
Yeah, even if Ace can even go, I know he had I think it's thoracic outlet syndrome or something like that. He had something wrong with his shoulder, and he fought through it all last year, and he's getting surgery on it. So he should be good to go for the upcoming year. But that's something that could really affect him in his uh, pitching game. So yeah, Henry, like I said, I believe that making it to the College World Series would be a success. Obviously once they make it, you'd want them to win, but expecting Coach Loss to go out there and just winning it all is is a little extra. Next year you could ask for that. This year you're going to ask for improvement, and improvement is getting past the regional, and then from there you're like, okay, you can get past the regional, get past the super regional, get to the World Series, and then from there, once you're a consistent College World Series team, then you can start competing for titles year in and year out. But I think we're still this year is going to be a transition year. Well, they probably won't win it all. I doubt they'll win it all. But seeing them compete at a high level to bring in more better recruits, like you mentioned with the better recruiting, the coaching staff is going to start building in their own guys. They're going to get the culture is going to be, ingrained. It's you look at the football team. Coach Sark wasn't a success in year one, right? The football team went 5-7, so that gradual success is going to be something we're going to have to see from Coach Schloss. But I'm hoping it's a little bit more sudden than 2021 to 2022, 23 to 2023 that Coach Sark had to do. So I think that it's gonna take a while before they start competing for a national championship consistently. But I think that they're gonna turn on their heels a lot faster than the football team did when Sark got here.
I mean, when's the last time you saw a coach show just come in and instantly a success? It's never really that. At least the traditional route. It's always a build up. Deion Sanders came in. He didn't. Colorado's year was okay last year, and then now they have a chance to go to the playoffs. And I keep talking about football, but we are in that season. So, but it's never. It's unrealistic to just assume that he can take them all the way. And I hope fans don't have that assumption right away going into the season. Because sometimes when this happens, when you bring in a guy who's so accomplished, who's almost won titles or anything like that, you expect something right away. It's kind of like the Tom Brady effect with the Buccaneers. Everyone expected a title, and they got one. Congrats. But that doesn't happen every time. Honestly, it never really happens. Look at Aaron Rodgers and everything. But, I just hope we, as a fan base, as the Longhorns, have patience with him at least this season, see what he can do. I mean, if it's utterly atrocious, then yes, people will get angry.
You'd sound the alarms if it's a repeat of what last year looked like. You'd have to start sounding the alarm.
But as long as we see a change, an upward change, I just think, like you said, it's a success in a way. And it's not what people want yet, but it's a step forward. Yeah, and that's what you just have to do.
It'll get there eventually. That's what I think that Coach Schloss is going to bring. I mean, you already seen him. He's bought into the culture as well. He's been going to a lot of these Texas football games. I saw him this past weekend in Fayetteville. He made the trip up there to cheer on the Horns. So he's really starting to ingrain himself in the culture. He's surrounding himself with the football team and all the other sports teams, trying to, get a sense of how this Texas culture is. And it's going to be interesting to see how he's going to, treat year one as the baseball coach here. He seems like a really nice guy. He seems like he's going to, try his hardest for this team. And, it seems like a job that's probably the best for him spot-wise. And it's going to be interesting to see how he's going to do. And I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to go to games again this upcoming winter and the spring. Can't wait to see how Coach Schloss handles all of this. And it should be a fun season on the 40 acres.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And it's just, I was there when he was doing his first Texas fight, and I think he needs a little bit of practice with it, but he'll get it down eventually. And as we near the end of this podcast, I think, are there any last thoughts, kind of how we as a fan base though can kind of be welcoming. I don't like fan bases who are too nice. I don't like fan bases who are too mean right away. I like fan base. I like people to tell the truth and everything, but you got to give someone a chance. So like, you think there's a message that you could convey that that everyone should kind of keep with them as they go into these games this year?
I'm gonna say be patient. You're not gonna see instant a 20 game win streak to start the season. Be patient with this team. There last year it was not good. It's what led to the firing of Coach Pierce. Just being patient, letting this team find its footing under the new head coach, under this new conference. It's gonna be a lot. It's gonna be a fight week in and week out, but making sure that you know you as a fan, you don't stray too far off of why are they performing so bad or having too many expectations for them, because that could kind of cloud your vision for this team. But if they can keep if you can be patient with this team, let them prove it to you that they are legitimate contenders, they're going to surprise some people, and they're going to make a lot of people happy who are going to be patient, who had to sit through the season last year, and then go on to next year, looking at this year, looking ahead to Coach Floss's first year. I'm excited and I'm ready to go.
Yeah, I think we're all excited. And that's going to do it for our third episode of Behind the Dish, a presentation of the Burnt Orange Sports Network. Again, I am Henry Hipschman with Grabiel Silva. Thank you so much for joining it, and tune in next time. Have a great night.